your energy forecast for Wednesday, September 6th. So today we have the moon in Gemini all day, which should be a very interesting day, mind you, because Wednesdays, of course, are ruled over by Mercury. Mercury rules over Gemini energy, also rules over Virgo energy that we're currently sitting in. Now, today is interesting for a couple of reasons. First of all, we do have Mercury, who is currently retrograde in this Virgo energy, coming up to bumping into conjuncting the Sun in Virgo energy, which is also referred to as a chasmy. So we talked about this on August 13th when Venus had her interaction with the Sun, and that was a resurrection, a rebirth, an ending, a closure, just as much as a new beginning of a cycle. The Sun, again, resets us. That's the life force energy. So today, not only do we have the Sun resetting Mercury and initiating the halfway point of Mercury's retrograde, but we're also building towards the last quarter moon, which happens to be in Gemini energy. Coinky-dink? I think not. Okay, so there are 11 different aspects here today. 8 of them are going to involve the moon in Gemini. Considering the fact that the moon in Gemini has our curiosity piqued, that we're very lighthearted, that we're very much trying to find answers to our questions, that we're trying to gain clarity, that we're trying to gain insight. There's a lot of chattiness, both in our inner realm and our outer realm. We become a little bit more social than normal or than usual than compared to the last little bit. And because of this chasmy, you best believe that there's going to be a lot of pressure in the mental plane. There may be elevated anxiety. You may just feel like you have a lot of restlessness, a lot of ants in your pants, like your head may explode at some point, and you're just kind of scatterbrained and all over the place. So again, please listen to the ascension forecast for this week so that you can understand how this energy manifests in the physical body with some of the physical symptoms, the uncomfortable ones that we will be experiencing throughout this week. And today in particular, just because of all of the electricity, all of the pressure on the mental plane, and this new life force energy really renewing our focus, our thoughts, our ideas. Okay, so with 11 different aspects, 8 involving the moon, let's jump into it. The moon in Gemini energy is going to trine with Mars. Mars is the god of war. He rules over our physical energy, our drive, our passion, our desires, even our anger. He is in the weakest place that he could possibly be in the zodiac wheel, which is Libran energy. Now, this isn't all bad. It does a lot of good for us. It's just Mars is not his best self here. He had to exchange his weapon of choice, his sword, for a little bit of charm, a little bit of, I'm going to say, manipulation when it comes to the intellectual battlefield. And Mars at this point in Libran energy is doing a couple of things. First of all, he's just trying to keep the peace so far from, really rocking the boat and creating more of a shit show than many of us are currently experiencing. He's also trying to talk and charm and negotiate and compromise his way towards getting what he wants. And he's trying to mask a lot of emotions, a lot of thoughts, a lot of passions, a lot of desires. That Libran energy has us kind of dabbling in the shallow end of our experience and emotions, and we tend to kind of mask our true, real, authentic self in Libran energy. And because we're super indecisive in Libran energy, there's a lot that we're trying to kind of just keep to ourselves until we can come to a little bit more solid of an idea, solid of an approach, and be able to actually articulate what it is that we're percolating on. So the moon interacting with Mars in this way is a lot of thought, a lot of inspiration, a lot of motivation, a lot of, I'm going to say, sparks, fires, and flames being kind of ignited within us, but we may not have a true focus. There's something exciting. We do have like a pinpoint of an idea, of a memory, of a topic, a theme that we are looking to explore that's really kind of, getting us excited or inspired or motivated once again. But the clarity isn't there. We're kind of all over the place. So there might be a little tint of an idea, but we don't have the full picture of what this idea would actually look like or actually be. Nonetheless, we are trying to really just kind of get excited or inspired or motivated about something in this earth realm at this particular point. So we're going to run with it. We're going to see what kind of gets triggered within us. We're going to see what is asking for our attention. We're going to see what it is that we're actually getting excited about, and we're going to sit on it. We're going to collaborate on it. We're going to just, kind of deal with the alternatives around it. But again, you may not have the full picture, just a little hint, just a little clue on some of the things that we're going to be focusing our energy on. So Mercury, ruler of the mental plane, ruler of information communication, how it is that we express ourselves, currently retrograde in Virgo energy, in its place of power, which, may I remind you, is about focusing on our physical realm. What is crazy? What is chaotic? What needs to be organized? What needs to be put into order? What isn't working? What needs to be fixed? What needs to be healed? What needs to be resolved? What needs to be improved? We have to start working smarter instead of harder. We have to start putting our health and wellness at the top of the list. We have to start compartmentalizing, reorganizing, restructuring how it is that we're moving through our physical realm, through our physical day. Okay, so the sun also in Virgo energy, shining a bright light on where it is that we do have to restructure and reorganize our physical realms, especially where tasks, chores, roles, and responsibilities are concerned, so that we can balance out the mind, body, soul equation instead of just giving all of our energy and attention to being of service to other people, trying to take care of other people, trying to do right by other people. It's time to rearrange what needs to be done by bringing the focus back upon ourselves. So this is where Mercury and the sun come together. This is the chasmy, this is the conjunction, this is the team up. And let me just say, this is the very small but unique window of opportunity that I was talking about in the ascension forecast for this week. And this is going to be a blip, an aha moment, an epiphany, if you will. Now, this could be an idea, a fresh idea that we're going to kind of percolate on and explore, or this could be a perspective back on the past. Considering the fact that Mercury is retrograde, along with the other planets in a retrograde, this may be an aha moment, looking back, reflecting back, reviewing, revising how it is that we've gotten here. This could be an aha moment that we change our perspective and understanding about, that has a major impact on our future. So you've been listening to me for any amount of time, you would know we're in this whole back to the future vibe. We're not moving forward. We're not initiating anything new. The only thing that we are seeing any kind of progress on is unpacking, fixing, and resolving issues of the past. So this is like processing 101, mental plane on fire. This is also the indicator that we're halfway through this Mercury retrograde cycle, which is great. So the first part of Mercury's retrograde is very immersed in confusion by being pulled back, experiencing the resistance of not wanting to go back, and understanding that we have to identify problems. Okay, so this is why we've been feeling heavy and weighted, problem after problem after problem after problem, because this is what this first section of Mercury retrograde is all about. Now, we're at the halfway point. Now we get a fresh perspective. Now we get a new understanding. Now we get to actually start kind of working on what it is that we've already realized, what it is that we've already kind of brought into our attention and awareness that needs to be fixed, healed, or resolved. Now we start kind of percolating on what we can do about it, what we want to do about it, what we should do about it, what we could do about it. Again, we're not really taking a whole lot of action, but we are shifting perspective. We are shifting narratives. Now we're moving into the fixer vibe of Mercury's retrograde time in the Virgo energy. And again, the Virgo energy is what gives us this want, need, and desire to create order out of chaos, wants us to fix, solve, and heal the problems that we deem to be worthy enough to actually continue to pour time and energy into. So this is going to have a long-lasting effect, if you will, on the energy and efforts that we're about to put forth in our lives to rearrange, to restructure what it is that we have been doing, what it is that we're going to be doing, and what it is that we're going to actively be trying to improve and do better. Be cautiously aware Again, there's a huge amount of energy that comes in with this particular interaction, has a major effect on anxiety, on restlessness in the physical body. And also keep in mind that whatever you're speaking on right now, or whatever you're putting into words, has a major impact, because again, Mercury rules over those particular communication styles. So for better or worse, you better watch what you're saying. You better watch how you're saying it. You better watch how you're speaking to yourself, to other people, the tone that you're using. You better watch what you are encapsulating in time by having it in written form, because this kind of anchors in the vibration and frequency that we're now going to be using and working towards to move forward, to fix, to resolve, to come up with new plans, to come up with new decisions, to come up with a new path, a new direction. So be very cautiously aware of your words, of your focus, and how it is that you are leaving your particular thoughts and opinions on yourself, on the people around you, and on the world around you. So the moon in Gemini energy going to make a positive interaction with Neptune, who is retrograde in its place of power in this Pisces energy. I really like Gemini energy and Pisces energy working together because, again, the Gemini energy is logical, practical, factual information and data that we're bringing in from our sensory input system from the outside world. But the Pisces energy doesn't depend on any facts, any data, any hardcore proof. It's the intuitive insights. It's the imagination. It is the higher realms of intelligence downloading us with visions, with knowings. And I love how when it's in a favorable aspect, such as this, we're able to actually brainstorm within ourselves. We're actually able to brainstorm with our higher self. We're able to kind of percolate on some of the intuitive insights, dreams, and visions that we have, and we're able to bring it into the logical, practical plane of our mental plane and of our heart space to kind of sort through it and see what is actually viable, what we can logically, practically bring to life from some of these inspirations, from these dreams, some of these little glimpses into the future. The moon will then semi-square, creating a little bit of a tension point with the North Node in Aries. Now, this is going to create a little bit of a blockage because we're coming off of what I'm going to say is highly motivational, highly inspired, highly excitable content from the moon just interacting with Neptune. What we do now is we're at a standstill because we're like, well, damn. Okay, those are really good ideas, and I feel very, passionate to pursue those ideas, but I don't know where to start. I don't even know where to begin, and it feels a little bit overwhelming. And I know I'm supposed to, be growing and expanding on these ideas and really trying to plan and strategize how I'm going to make these calculated moves in order to, bust away from the old and create something new and really anchor into this new version of self and really push myself to follow my dreams, my aspirations, my visions at this point. But I haven't a sweet Jesus clue on where it is that I'm supposed to start. So here's where the confusion begins. But it's not going to linger for that long. We have the moon going ahead and sextiling with Venus. A sextile is a harmonization of these energies. Venus, who is still trying to clean herself up and dust herself off from this, last 6 weeks being in the underworld, being in this dark pit, she's starting to kind of sit up. If we were laying down in the grass, just trying to kind of, get the pieces of ourselves together and let the sun kind of beat down on us and let our eyes acclimate to that brightness and to really breathe in the fresh air that we haven't been breathing in for the last 6 weeks and just kind of sit there. Well, maybe now we're sitting up. Maybe we are strong enough to sit up and take in the surroundings that we're currently sitting in. And what it is that we're doing right now is we're coming up with, albeit a very simplified plan on where it is that we're just going to simply ask ourselves to acclimate to sitting up. And then maybe we're going to ask ourselves to stand up. And then we're going to ask ourselves to take one step forward. And then maybe we're going to ask ourselves to take a couple more steps forward to actually get us to where it is that we need to be. Right now, we're just sitting up. But we're having a lot of realizations by sitting up. First of all, we're gaining our strength. That's a great thing. First of all, we're gaining more perspective by sitting up than we were lying down. Well, that's a great thing too. And right now we have a lot of thoughts that, of course, we've been percolating on for the last 6 weeks, definitely connected to the change of heart in which we're having, by recognizing what needs to stay and what needs to go in our physical realm in order to create a reality that is happier and more joyful and more safer and more secure, more stable. Now, granted, we're not doing anything about it right now, but we're having some profound ideas on what it is that we need to do in order to actually get to the point where we're going to be able to make those particular changes and transformations. So this is working very well for us. Our heart and our head are having this conversation. It's like, you know what? We do have a very lengthy to-do list, but let's just start with the simple things by just sitting up, taking a deep, deep breath of fresh air, really just being grateful, having the attitude of gratitude that we got out of this dark pit, that we have a new lease on life, that we at least have a path and a plan together. May not be clear, may not be long-term plan, but we sure as hell know what we have to address first in order to create some distance and close the door on some particular aspects of life that we've already kind of realized that we can't continue. So this is a good step forward, but here's where things get a little bit tricky. The moon, and keep in mind, may I just give you this reminder, when we're building towards any phase of the moon, specifically in this case, the last quarter moon is a pressure-filled point of intensity, especially where reflecting back on the last lunar cycle actually shows us where it is that we're piecing together an ending point, a completion point, where it is that we're prepping and preparing ourselves to launch ourselves in a new path, a different direction. So there's always some jitteriness, there's always some pressure, there's always some intensity trying to build towards a particular moon cycle event. So as I said, here's where things get a little bit sticky. The moon in Gemini energy going to interact with Pluto, the great transformer himself, who is retrograde in this Capricorn energy. Now, this is not the nicest interaction, so this is going to put a lot of pressure in our mental plane. Pluto does a deep dive in the deepest parts of our psyche. The Gemini energy does a deep dive in the lower level of our intellect, where logic and practicality from our earthly experience resides. And the moon, of course, is the emotional factor that gets triggered and activated and has a certain response or reaction to the thoughts that we're currently experiencing in our mental plane. So first of all, we know that the moon interacting with Pluto is going to be super intense. It always is with Pluto. That's what he does. It has to be intense. And even more than that, it has to be intense on illuminating and magnifying the fear, the doubts, the insecurities, the not so nice narratives, the not so nice thoughts, memories, ideas. We have to sit in the funk in order to fix it. And so the moon kind of interacting with Pluto in this way, definitely going to turn the volume all the way up on where it is that we're resisting making some of the changes that we know that we have to make because we haven't quite anchored in the narrative, the perspective, the plan, the strategy that we need to feel safe, secure, and stable to actually pursue. So this is more of a deconstruction, a disassembly, if you will, on the negative narratives, the negative focuses, the negative fears, those everything that consumes us, that prevents us and paralyzes us from evolving, from growing, from improving. That's coming up right now. But it's coming up for good reason, because again, you have to identify the problem in order to fix it, and you have to feel the pain in order to heal it. So the moon goes ahead, gets into the boxing ring, squares off with Mercury. Okay, so Mercury rules over the Gemini energy, so we already know that this is going to be super, super intense. Mercury is retrograde in Virgo energy. Virgo energy, Gemini energy, they both have the same ruler, Mercury. Okay, so we're on Wednesday, ruled over by Mercury. Mercury just got kind of triggered in a resurrection, a rebirth, a renewal by the sun earlier on in the day. And now emotionally speaking, we're entering into the boxing ring because our heart and our head not on the same page. At all, not on the same page. The moon in Gemini energy has us very divided between old versus new, inner realm versus outer realm, higher self versus ego self. That's the division, that's the polarization. Mercury has us kind of, focused on the parts of our lives that aren't so happy, aren't so peachy keen, aren't so stable, aren't so supportive in us breaking away from the old in order to kind of orient ourselves to the new. And so what we're doing in here in this boxing ring is we're fighting it out in order to compromise. Now, Gemini energy, great for being able to kind of divvy out and process the pros and cons, the highs, the low, the black from white, the everything in between. The Virgo energy needs to focus in on the smaller details. So, yes, there is this contrast, this polarization where emotionally the Gemini energy is showing us, again, old versus new, inner versus outer, that whole ramble that I just did. But the Mercury energy has us looking back, has us focused on the smaller details of the habits, of the energy, of the tasks, of the chores, of the roles, of the responsibilities that we're constantly in autopilot doing, creating a looping, egoic programming behavior where we're never introducing anything new. We're just sticking in the same old rut. And the moon in Gemini is like, okay, I understand where it is that we're on autopilot. I understand where it is that we have to break free from this emotional programming in order to try something new. But the mercurial energy needs a little bit of time to percolate. They've just kind of been resurrected, reborn, if you will. We have a lot of pressure in the mental plane. We have a lot of processing to do. And right now, it's just being illuminated where it is that we're not feeling in alignment with some of the thoughts that are going through our headspace. 6:22 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the moon getting into the boxing ring, squaring it off with the sun. This is what gives us our last quarter moon in Gemini. And of course, the moon is our emotions, is our heart space, is the past. The sun is our life force energy, shining a bright light on our futuristic selves, what we have to do in order to get there. The moon in Gemini, very divided on looking back, understanding where it is that we're breaking away from the old in order to initiate the new. The sun very much not even caring about too much of the past, just focused on what it is that we have control over, what it is that we can do, what it is that we can restructure, strengthen, recreate in the here and now. Again, the Virgo energy that the sun is in just wants to create order, just wants to fix, resolve, and heal. And the moon in Gemini showing us where it is that we're very divided on what actually needs to be fixed, healed, and resolved. So this last quarter moon, the last quarter moon of any lunar cycle is a little bit of an intense point of realization. And this is a sorting through, a processing, if you will, on where it is that we got to leave certain aspects behind in order to actually build something new in its place. And this is an intensity, a tension, a conflict in order to understand where the resistance to change actually is. And right now, emotionally speaking, it's because of this Gemini energy having us divided within ourselves from the get-go. Mercury is then going to interact with Pluto in not the nicest way. So, we've had some very positive interactions between Mercury and Pluto, really helping us to kind of unpack that programming, that conditioning in our psyche. But this one is not the nicest aspect. And unfortunately, we need not so nice aspects to pop off in order for us to kind of see where the problem is. And of course, Pluto, the great transformer, needs to illuminate the weight in order for us to kind of alleviate it, illuminate the pain in order for us to turn it into power, illuminate the darkness so that we can turn that into light. And again, light is knowledge and information. So Mercury, who is retrograde in this Virgo energy, interacting with Pluto, retrograde in Capricorn energy, what this is a little bit of a, let's call it a roadblock, gridlock system in our mental plane. We understand what it is that we're being asked to move away from, but we don't really have a plan and strategy on how it is that we're going to do that. We understand the negative narrative that we've been having, the conditioning, the programming that we've been kind of stuck in a reactory, egoic behavior, but we're not really sure how to flip that script, how to rewrite it. What we are going to be illuminated to is where it is that we're kind of gridlocked in our brain, in our mental plane, where, we understand where the problem's at, but right now we don't really have a lot of solutions. We really don't have a plan or a strategy. And all this is going to do is intensify the amount of confusion that we're currently sitting in. Mercury goes ahead and bumps into Chiron shortly thereafter, though, in such a positive way that it actually suggests that sitting in that funk, having that gridlock brain of ours, not really knowing what the path forward, the plan forward should be, was actually a great thing because it shows that we are recognizing the areas of concern that we need to be addressing. Chiron, being the wounded healer in retrograde in this Aries energy, has us kind of more in a warrior type of spirit to identify the problems within us, especially where our mental plane is concerned, and to just confront it, to tackle it, to unpack it, to really see what it is that has created this particular narrative or focus or shitstorm in our memories and our mental planes. And we're able to actually improve it, resolve it, heal it, fix it, grow through it. So this does kind of say that, the funk that we started experiencing midday due to all of these not so nice aspects was very transformative. We are starting to piece together where it is that some of these negative narratives, these heavier weights of emotion, these memories, this pain, this trauma, we're recognizing where it stems from. And the minute that you can identify the primary root cause of some of this egoic conditioning and programming is the minute that you're bringing it to your awareness that you have power and control to flip the script. So I see this being as a good thing. The last thing that we have going on here today is the moon in Gemini interacting with Jupiter, the planet of growth, expansion, beliefs, abundance, and blessings, who is now retrograde in this Taurus energy. This is a positive interaction, so this brings a lot of optimism, a lot of confidence, but it also magnifies, if you will, in our inner realm, what it is that we're changing, what it is that we are kind of growing through as we're going through, what it is that we are kind of, I'm going to say, renewing our self-esteem, our self-confidence about, where we are picking out the silver linings, where we are trying to kind of revisit some hopes, some wishes, some dreams that we may have. Now, we may not know what to do with them as of yet, and that's okay. But Jupiter is very much the hype girl, very much trying to pluck us out of the darkness, very much trying to humble us and show us the attitude of gratitude that when we sit in that and we understand why we had to go through some of the things that we had to go through, that it's all the spiritual knowledge that we need to accumulate through those tough love life lessons that are going to have us enlightened to a level of awareness that actually brings us out of the dark pit of the emotions and memories that many of us would have explored and been sitting in throughout the day, and give us a higher vision, a bigger, broader perspective, understanding why those smaller parts of misery were necessary to contribute to the greater, grander picture of happiness, joy, and success. So I would say that we're entering into the end of the day, if you will, on a much brighter, much more positive, much more confident vibe than we definitely started the day off in.